Hello, Tech Pros, episode 110.
You got to figure out what you want to do. And there's all kinds of ways to do that. Ask your friends and family. You know what you spend your time doing when you're not at work, right?
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week, we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Matt Gibson. Happy Friday, Matt.
What's up, Chad? Thanks for having me on the show.
You
How's
bet.
it going?
I'm doing great, man. Are you excited to get this weekend started?
Yeah, man, I'm ready to rock it. You know,
Ready?
especially after a week at podcast movement, man. I'm stoked up.
That was an intense week a couple of weeks ago, and I am still trying to unwind from that.
Yeah.
But right now, we're fixing to rock the mic, man, because Matt Gibson is a guitarist, social media personality, and the host of the Kingdom of Rock podcast for DIY musicians. He endorses ESP guitars, Breedlove guitars, Mesa Boogie, Diodario, and Reese harps.
Right, Diodario.
Diodario.
Everyone mispronounces it anyway. It doesn't matter. They're guitar strings.
Dude, I was born in Texas, raised in Oklahoma, and I've got just a little bit of redneck in me.
Oh, it's all good, brother.
Hey, I, as everyone knows, or as no one knows except me, I have like zero ties. No, actually, I have one tie to rock and roll, and I want to tell you the story because I didn't tell you at the event.
Okay,
last
cool.
week,
Let's hear it, man.
and my I don't think my audience knows either. So way back in the 90s, dude, way back in this was late 1997, early 1998. I was working at a multimedia firm in Oklahoma City, and we were building multimedia CD-ROMs. So this was when the internet was still brand new, and everything was, dial-up modems. And there was animated GIFs like there's animated GIFs now, but they were, crappy little GIFs, and everything was like had to be under 100K. The whole page had to be under 100K to be able to, be downloaded by anybody's dial-up modems and stuff. And so anybody, these big brands, big companies, bands, everybody was putting their big content, like their high definition, like 640 by 480 pictures, what we joke about now, but little postage stamp, like internet videos, stuff like that.
Right.
We would put them on CD-ROMs. And so we had I was part of the software development team that was part of this marketing company. And, people would pay us. It's kind of like Adobe Flash. Back in the day, it was called Macromedia Director.
Yeah.
And it was kind of an animation studio and kind of a little bit of development and some scripting language and stuff like that. So one of our clients, we had some music entities as our clients. So BMG was a big client. Sony Classical was a big client. And I can't remember which one brought them in, but we got to work on the Iron Maiden Virtual 11 album.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so like when I tell... I don't know, other people, they're like, okay, what is that? Well, I'm telling you, I worked on the Iron Maiden Virtual 11 album. And here's the funny story about that, because in all the albums, it was kind of cut and paste. I did probably 30 or 40 of these multimedia CD-ROMs. So the artists would they would cut their tracks, right? They would record their songs and get them ready. And then we would make these data elements, which had pictures and videos and kind of descriptions about, all of the band members and text and all this kind of stuff. And we would package it together. So they would burn the two tracks together. So if anybody still has an old Iron Maiden Virtual 11 CD, you would have the audio that you could plug into your audio system, just put it into your CD player and play it that way. But if you took the same CD and plugged it into your computer, it would pop up with like a Windows installer or a Mac installer or whatever.
That. I remember
Yeah,
those.
and it was all like branded and sponsored by AOL, like America Online, because they were trying to get everybody to use their, dial-up systems and stuff like that. And so it was it was kind of boring work after the first 20 or 30 albums that I did. So when I got to Iron Maiden, I said, I'm going to put an Easter egg in here. And when you hold down certain keystrokes and click in certain areas, then like the whole computer screen will like blow up in fire. I mean, not literally on fire, but the pictures and videos will go away, and there will be this evil kind of laugh, and the screen will just like burst into like this animated flames and stuff. And I thought that would be pretty cool because only me would know about, and thousands, tens of thousands of people would own the CD and not realize that it had that. Well, I did that. I put that together, and there was a 9 p.m. drop dead deadline date to get it to FedEx to send it to the company who was actually going to put this data on the actual CDs that got printed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was going to be tomorrow, and tomorrow was like, the next day, the day after was like the drop dead, like we're going to get fired. We're going to get sued if we miss this deadline.
Right.
And so I said, okay, I got it. I got tonight, no problem. And in the middle of putting that in, as soon as I put that Easter egg in and I hit compile and run, my whole computer just went poof and just exploded and just died, and I lost everything, and I didn't have backups of my work that I'd been working on. Yeah, it was horrible. I had to go to a backup CD somewhere, pull the data off, like get all the files from each of the graphic designers' computers and pull all them down, and spent an all-nighter trying to put this thing together so that when my boss came in the next morning, he said, "Hey, Chad, did you make the FedEx deadline?" I said, "No, sir, I'm sorry, I missed it." He goes, "Okay, well, we got it tonight. You got everything working, right?" "Yes, sir, I got everything working." But I did not share that story with anyone until I'm sharing it now, that I
Nice.
almost destroyed the Iron Maiden Virtual 11 CD single-handedly.
Exclusive. Well,
Yeah.
hey, if I ever have Maiden on the show, I might have you on so you can tell them.
I don't know. Do I want to do that?
Well, I don't
It'll be
know.
fun.
Do you care about that company anymore?
No, they're gone.
Yeah. So it's
They're
all
long
good.
gone. It's a funny story, and it
Yeah,
all turned out great. So they published their album. It had huge success, and there you go.
yeah, that's awesome, man. That's a great story. I love it.
Cool. Well, I want to hear your story, dude, because here's the thing. We're talking about people on People Friday here on Hello Tech Pros, because what I found in my career is it's not what you know, it's who you know. So you have a background in technology. You have a background in super nerdy stuff.
Yep.
Yep. So we're not going to get into that real deep today. What I
Yeah.
do want to talk about, though, is social networking. So when I met you at Podcast Movement a couple of weeks ago, I was so super impressed because when we first started talking, you said, "Hey, what's your podcast about?" And I said, "Hello Tech Pros," and I kind of explained. You're like, "Oh, cool, man. I get that because, I come from this technology background too, and I do this stuff for my day job." But
Yep.
then throughout the event, I saw you talking to this table and that table and this group and that group, and you were just all over the whole show. You were all over the floor. You're in the bar. You're in the dinners. You're everywhere talking to everybody. And I was like, Matt is a rock star social networking engineer, man. He's got this down. I need to learn some lessons from him.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I kind of I'm an introvert. Well, okay, first of all, let me tell you we talked about IT background. I
Yeah.
was in the military for 20 years and I was in aircraft maintenance, and at some point in the Air Force, and at some point they needed somebody that could do the computers because the government, they run out of money and they don't have enough people to do things sometimes. And so I'm an aircraft mechanic, and they're like, you like computers, right? Because I always was a hobbyist with computers and stuff, and I was like,
Hmm.
yeah. And they're like, well, you're hired, and I'm like, what? So I had to learn like, servers and all kinds of stuff, like how to ghost machines, and it was kind of my first exposure to the enterprise side of technology. And at some point, I ended up getting all my certs, MCSA. I think it was like 2003, A plus, Network plus, Security plus, and then I finally got my degree in IT management. Finished, took me 20 years, but I've always loved technology, but at the same time, I'm kind of an introvert, which a lot of people that love technology can be a little introverted, it
Yep.
seems. or shy or whatever, reserved. And at some point, I started playing MMOs because of computers. I would build Quake servers. I started getting into Linux, and I would do all the LAMP Apache stuff, and PHP coding and different things. I was interested in this whole internet thing in general, right? And
Right.
computers and IT. So I got into gaming and I started playing EverQuest 2 when it came out. And EverQuest 2, I was always, a little bit of a personality, but I was also pretty shy, right?
Hmm.
And EverQuest 2, what that did for me, I inherited somebody's guild. They quit the game and they're like, well, here, you play a lot, you can have the guild. And so now I'm the guild leader of an EverQuest 2 guild, right? And that experience where that was the first time that I had to get out of my shell and really start talking to people and learning, about what I could do to help them and what it meant to be a leader. And, because I was still pretty low rank in the military when all that was happening too. So I was the guy that they made mop the floor, all that stuff. So, but yeah. And so at some point, when I was playing the MMOs a lot, I've always been a hobbyist as a musician and played guitar and sang. And, I took a couple semesters of opera and different things, but it was always a hobby and it was never anything that I thought I would do for a living. And then right as, EverQuest 2 was kind of falling apart and, people move on to new games and stuff, Google Plus came out. And I was always excited about MySpace. I saw all these musicians and with millions of followers and hundreds of thousands of followers. I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
that's got to be cool, man. This is when social media was, coming out. I was like, these people are famous, and I didn't realize that they weren't as famous as I thought they were. But
Hmm.
so Google Plus came out, and with all of the stuff that I learned by being a guild leader in the military, being a leader in the military and all the soft skills that I had picked up, I was like, I am going to be the rock guitar guy of Google Plus. I'm going to be the number one guy. And
Nice.
it just like dawned on me that I could. It's kind of like in the Matrix where it's like I know kung fu. It just occurred to me that I could be that guy, right? And so I started meeting people. And so here comes my nerd out, right? So I start seeing all of these people interacting with each other and talking to each other in Google Hangouts on their profile. And I start to analyze the system that is that social network. And I started ranking people and putting people that I wanted to know and that I should play my guitar in front of, people that I should talk to, people that I should get, be friends with. And I made it into kind of like an analytical, um, I made a map basically of what I was going to do to accomplish my goals. And I had to learn some things. And some things I was terrible about talking to people. Sometimes I would talk too much. Sometimes I would go in there and play my guitar when nobody wanted to hear it. So I had to make mistakes. But I saw it, and that got me in the right place at the right time. And now I've got over 1 million followers on Google Plus. And that the result of that turned into I just passed Justin Timberlake on the Google Plus, suggested user list ranking,
Wow.
and I'm like, what is going on here? What does this mean, right? And so uh, at that point, I was like, it was Joe Satriani was number one guitar player. Sammy Hagar was number two because he was doing Chicken Foot with Joe, and they got on Google Plus, I think. And then it was me. And I'm like, what does this mean? I know I don't deserve to be with those guys, you know? So I'm like, you know what? So I started talking to people and I decided that I was going to become a professional rock star. And that's what I wanted to be. And so I took some guitar lessons from my guitar hero, George Lynch, and took vocal lessons from one of my vocal heroes, Tony Harnell. And it was a great experience. It opened up possibilities for me. And I said, you know what? I'm not hiding under a rock anymore. I'm going to put myself out there in front of as many people as I can. I'm not going to worry about privacy. I'm not going to worry about keeping it to myself. I'm going to see what happens if you just say yes to everything. And so now, today, I've got all kinds of guitar endorsements. Um, I've got music companies will send me just about anything that I need to use. You know, I've got opportunities to speak, and I've made friends with social media influencers. I've made friends with top of the notch podcasters. I've made and those are more like associations, like you and I, we kind of talked and got into some personal stuff, so a
Right.
little bit more of the friend level,
Yeah.
but it's like, you don't realize, especially if you have a day job, especially if you're sitting in a server room somewhere where nobody's talking to you, or if you're constantly, you know, dealing with all these customer support issues with people that don't know how to use computers or whatever, you don't realize how many options that you have. And you can get stuck. You can get stuck in a rut where you think that this is it, right? But it's
Right.
not. You can do anything that you want in today's world. You can go from installing, drivers on somebody's computer to being the most one of the most followed rock guitarists on the internet. And so if IT is not your number one passion, you don't have to stay there. If it is, you could become like the next Leo Laporte. Start your own network. Talk about tech. People, today's world, you can do anything that you want, and it's really not that hard. It just takes persistence and utilizing your time in the best way that you can. So well, anyway, so did I cover what you're?
Yeah, dude, oh man, that's such good stuff because I personally, I put a label on myself way back then, like earlier than that 1997, 1998 story that I told you, right? I put labels on myself as a teenager in high school, as a young adult, of like, this is my lot in life, right? These are the things I'm good at. These are the things I'm not good at. And so, whatever opportunities open up for me, I'm gonna have to take quickly because there's no more opportunities. Like, this is all I can do. I can write software. I'm decent at it. I'm not fantastic at it. I was pretty decent at figuring technical problems out, being very logical and breaking a big problem down into small problems and then solving those small problems, right? Solving things technically, but I'm not like a social person. I cannot interact. I'll never be a salesperson. I'll never be a marketing person. I'll never just be that person that can walk into the room and everybody goes, "Wow, that guy, he's got it together," right? I'll never be that, but I'll be happy. I'll be content. Like, I'll live my life. I'll do my thing, and that'll be okay. But what I hear you saying is like completely opposite from that. It's like my lot is not cast early on in my career or
Mm,
in my life, right? We all have different options. We all have options that are out there that are available. We're just like maybe shutting those doors before we take advantage of them. We're shutting those doors
yeah.
instead of
Well,
walking through them. We're just saying, no, that's not going to work.
no, see, I think part of that is that, like, for me, I'm 46, right? So I was around when I was a kid, they didn't have the internet.
Hmm.
It was in the 70s, right? So when you went out to play, there was no cell phone. Nobody knew where you were. And so your world was the people that you hung out with in real life, the people you went to school with, the people that you went out and did things with, right?
Hmm.
And so it was really hard to see potential and to get encouraged unless you were in sports or super academic or something like that. Kind of the standard things that people approve of in general, right? You're an
Hmm.
athlete or you're a scholar when you're a teenager, that's it, right? But now in today's world, it's different because there are no gatekeepers. And the gatekeepers that there are some gatekeepers, you can figure out how to get around them. I called the director of marketing for AT&T to try. I was trying different angles. I was just pitching myself to people, right? To see what a million followers means to other companies, right? So I was figuring, well, I may not be able to get people, to send me a check because I'd really like to, if I'm going to be famous on the internet, I'd like to get paid for it. That'd be cool,
Right.
right?
That would be cool.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, maybe I could get like AT&T to hook me up with a free cell phone and I wouldn't have to pay a bill for it. Maybe I could do that. And so I actually, I was going through a phase in my life where I was like, okay, people, there's all these gatekeepers, right? What if I just asked the universe every day the most ridiculous question, that I could ask? Like, what if I called the director of marketing for AT&T and pitched myself and she sent me a free cell phone to use? So I did. And I got to her secretary, which is pretty cool, I think, right? Because social engineering is part of being a hacker, right? If you're like white hat, black hat hacker, whatever, social engineering is part of getting people's passwords. I mean, all the naughty things that we're not supposed to do, right?
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
No, we don't want to do that. But it that skill set is really good for networking because you can get around gatekeepers and have real conversations with people that you actually want to talk to. That's a really good skill. And I'm not advocating being dishonest, but what I'm saying is if you talk to somebody like you know what you're doing, most of the time they're not going to question you. So if you call up, AT&T and T and say, "I need to talk to the vice president of marketing," and you know their name and you've done research on them, there's a possibility you're going to get through to them, and you might have a conversation with them. The question is, what are you going to do with that? That's where networking needs to lead somewhere, right? So
Hmm.
what you got to do is you got to figure out, okay, if I could just snap my fingers and be doing something, what would it be? Right? It might be, being a computer geek, and it might not be. But think about that. And what is it that I really, really want to do with the most important thing that I have, which is time? Time is the only thing that you can't buy and you can't sell. Well, you can sell time. You can throw your time away. So it's super important how you spend your time. If you could just spend your time the way you wanted to spend it, what would that be? And then start doing the things that gets you there. Because that's really like where most people get trapped. They get trapped in their system and they get trapped in their profession. And they get to the point where it's like crabs in a bucket.
Mm.
If you put one crab in a bucket, he'll get out. If you put two crabs in a bucket, the other crab's going to keep him from getting out, you know?
Yeah.
So your system might be holding you back. It may be keeping you from your dreams. And I know this is a show about IT and everything, and I don't want to encourage some mass exodus of all the IT pros to go be guitar players. But at the same time, I really enjoy IT. I really enjoy coding. I really enjoy doing like security stuff and exploits and learning all kind. I would have been a white hat hacker if I would have kept going, but I decided that I really wanted to play guitar more than anything. And so but all of the tech knowledge that I had has really helped me with networking. It's helped me with putting together good systems. It's helped me with troubleshooting problems. There's all kinds of problems, especially in today's music studio. You got to be a computer genius to like do Pro Tools. Your stuff breaks all the time. And so IT is really a great starting point for a lot of other things that you might want to do with your life because it teaches you a lot of really valuable skills, especially if you get into troubleshooting and dealing with customers and all that stuff. But you could do whatever you want. I mean, today's world is wide open. You can network, you can connect with just about anybody that you ever wanted to.
Matt, what I love about this story is that it's so awesome that these opportunities exist. It's so inspiring. It's so motivating. This would have made just an equally such a great episode for a Motivation Monday, because it's all about these options that we have, and you're not stuck in whatever role that you have, whether you're an entry level server admin that just installs the things that people tell you to install, and you have no like say on what things to include in the package and what things to exclude in the package. You're just kind of like another part of the script. You just kind of do what people tell you to. That is not your only option. There are other options. So what I hear you saying is that there's somebody in the audience who wants to do something just completely wild and ridiculous, regardless of if that's go be a rock star, or if that's something in the company that they currently work for, right? Or in
Right.
the organization, in the job, like in the technology space that they work with. If you could have that one chance to talk to the CEO, or talk to the VP of technology, or if you could talk to that startup entrepreneur that has all that success that you look up to, or you could talk to whoever it is that you look up to, like, what would you say? So Matt, in just a moment, I want to dive deep into the specifics on when you get that opportunity, when you get brave enough, and then when you put yourself out there and you get those opportunities, like, what can we do to maximize that conversation with those key stakeholders, or those key influencers that
Sure.
that we want to talk to. But first, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Okay, we're back with Matt Gibson, who is a guitarist, social media personality, host of the Kingdom of Rock podcast for DIY musicians, potential white hat hacker, and social media engineer. Matt, we've been talking to you about taking this opportunity whenever they come up to just shoot big. Talk to someone like you know what you're doing. Social engineer the heck out of all your experiences, and just ask the universe every day for something completely ridiculous, because you never know, they might say yes.
Yeah. Well, okay. I guess the thing is, it's just like martial arts. If you've ever taken martial arts or watched martial arts, I took martial arts for a few years in the military, and the thing is, it's about rehearsing for something unexpected, right? And so if somebody comes up to you on the street and tries to pull you into an alley, if you've never had that scenario happen to you before, you probably are going to freak out and go with them, and then get robbed at best and killed at worst, So,
Right.
But if you've had some experience, like, all right, so what do you do if somebody drags you into an alley? Well, number one is you don't go. You don't let them take you there. And if they try to take you there, you poke them in the eye until they quit doing it. So, I mean, it's like, because if you go there, that's a bad place. You don't want to let them take you to the bad place, right? So it's just like anything. If you get up on stage with your guitar, and like, if I gave you a guitar right now and I put you in front of 10,000 people, your brain would probably melt,
Yeah.
because you'd be like, I don't know what to do,
I can't
right?
play a single chord. Like,
Yeah.
literally, I have no guitar knowledge whatsoever.
Exactly. So, and those are horrifying, scary, terrible moments in life, right? So, when it comes to networking, and once you figure out what it is you want to do, Then you got to figure out who are people that could either give me advice, inspire me, be my friend, help me on my journey or whatever. You go out there and you can go look on LinkedIn, you can do research on Facebook and Twitter and all these places, right? And so you finally get somebody's attention, right? That you want to get to know. So here's what you got to do. You got to be ready. You've got to prepare. And I don't mean like a speech, but you got to know, what do I want from this person? And but you also got to think, what do they want from me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the best thing that I could tell you is offer help, find something that you can do for another person before you ask them to do something for you. So the best success that I've had with connecting with people is giving them opportunity, is offering to help them with something. Like I had a friend, is a rock star, he's a very famous musician, that I connected with on social media, on Facebook, and I found out he was starting a guitar school. Well, I just went through an online guitar school. So I used that as an icebreaker to start the conversation. And I told him everything that I experienced in the online guitar school. And that was a way to kind of break the ice and get the conversation started, because think about it. Influencers, people that are busy, people that have people come up to and want their autograph or want them to do something for them, people just get wore out from that, right?
Right.
So like if you most conversations with rock stars go like this. If you go to a meet and greet and you watch people, right? They'll go up to the rock star standing in line, say, "Hey, can you sign this?" "Sure, no problem." "What's your name?" My name's Joe." "Okay, hey Joe, you want to make this out to Joe?" "Yeah, no problem." "Hey man, I really love your music. You're great. Thanks a lot, bro." And that's the end of the conversation, right? That's most conversations with influencers, because people don't know what to say.
Regardless of the space, right? Regardless of if you're in rock star mode or if you're in an IT conference or at the podcasting conference. I saw that just a couple of weeks ago. Like these big podcasters that have millions and millions of downloads all the time. People are doing the same thing. "Hey man, love your show," or "Hey man, can I get a selfie?" And right. I may or may not be guilty of doing the exact same thing.
But you know what? I did at the conference, and I know that I'm networking good when I go to a conference in Chicago for a week and I take one picture. Right? Yeah. Just one picture.
Right.
Because I was too busy talking to people. Because you know what? If you take a picture of you and somebody else, they're not going to remember that very much. Mm-hmm. But if you have a meaningful conversation with somebody, they'll remember it the rest of their life.
Right. So I interrupted you. So you were talking about, when you get that opportunity and you're helping them, and what they're used to is people just take. So you want to give something. So when you see a person of influence, like you want to have something substantial that you can say, here's this advice, here's this tip. What do you want to give them?
Okay. So here's the deal. I'm a better teacher than I am explainer. So let's say Bill Gates right now, right? You know that tomorrow you're going to get 15 minutes with Bill Gates because of some conference or whatever, but for some reason you got lucky, you're going to get to talk to Bill Gates tomorrow. How would you go about figuring out what to say to him?
Man, I don't, I'm getting nervous just thinking about it. Like I have no, what do I want out of Bill Gates? I mean, he's got everything, he's such an influencer, but what do I want to get out of it? I don't know.
Do you want me to tell you? I know what you want to get out of it.
Please.
You want him to be on your podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want Bill on your podcast. So the question is, what would you do to get Bill on your podcast?
So, knowing, so if it's just another podcaster or just like a friend, a buddy that I think I can jam with, like yourself, I just like, "Hey dude, you want to jam? Let's get on the podcast and
That's
talk about."
That's not going to work for Bill.
Right. That's not going to work for Bill. He's too busy.
He's too busy.
He's too big. Right. So if I knew that the people listening to this podcast right here was exactly the type of people that he wanted to talk to and pitch his next thing, right? Whether it's
Right.
probably not software, it's probably some big
Bill and
world
Melinda Gates
changing.
Foundation.
Yeah, exactly. The foundation,
Yep.
they've got a new thing going on with that. They want people to just be aware of this problem that's going on in society,
Right.
and here's what you can do to help. Like, that's what I would do, is say, hey, I know that you're working on this. You want to get the word out. I've got the people on my podcast who are listening, several
And they
hundred
all
people
love Bill
dialing in.
Gates in some way. At
They love
least
you, man.
respect Bill Gates.
Exactly. So if you could talk to my audience and tell them something, would you take the opportunity, and what would you say to them?
Right. Okay, so my challenge to you is do some research. I don't know if this would fit your show or not, but I would say do some research on Bill's foundation and find out a launch and get with his PR people and see if you can get him on the show.
Sweet.
That's kind of unexpected, but
Yeah.
I'm sneaky like that. That would be a good exercise. I think that's, and honestly, what's the worst case scenario? They say no.
Yep.
End of conversation, or try again. I've been trying to get Grant Cardone on my show for like a year, no, 3 years. Before I had a show, I've been trying to get Grant to do some stuff with me. And finally I got his attention, so sometimes it's worth it to, keep beating the door down, So on a practical level, that's how you do it. You've got to figure out, if you want to get with somebody, people that are busy because they're doing things. So find out what they're doing. If you can't find out what somebody's doing on the internet, you really should not be in IT anyway, right? So you go to social media, check them out. Check out their Facebook page. Check out their Twitter. What are they talking about? What do they do? And then find something that you could help either promote. You could volunteer at an event. You could, there's all kinds of things you can do to help people. And I think Guy Kawasaki, he was, he's a famous marketer.
Right.
I think he was with Motorola for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and a few other companies, Canva. But I think his phrase that he uses, he calls it sucking up, right, to influencers, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of sucking up to, because honestly, if it's worth it, they're going to appreciate it. If you just say, hey, Chad, man, I really want you on my show. And if you're on my show where there's no value, like I don't have an audience, will you be on my show? You're probably going to be like, no, I'm too busy, right? But if I say, yeah, I got 5,000 IT guys on my show, will you be on my show and talk to them, tell them about your podcast? I'm sure you would be, So it's
Right.
just, you've got to make it a win-win situation. That's the magic word, win-win. You got to make it good for you and good for them.
So yeah, I think the struggle with, especially if you're extremely shy, extremely introverted, that comes from the fear of not of being judged and not having anything to give, right? And so you have to have something to give back to the person that you're looking, right? When you called Motorola or who? I'm sorry, AT&T. When you called AT&T and you're trying to talk to the VP, what you had to give them was, you have over 1 million followers on Google Plus. Like, hey, if AT&T gives me free phone and free stuff, I could throw some shout outs to 1 million people. Is that worth anything to you or not? And so I think, what I have struggled with in the past is this imposter syndrome. Hey,
Yep.
I'm not good enough. Woe is me. I don't have anything to offer to these people, whatnot. But I think what it is just kind of baby steps, right? So before I launched my podcast, it wouldn't make any sense at all to reach out to Bill and say, hey, Bill, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. You started Microsoft. You know a little bit about IT, a little bit about software, could you come on? No, there's nothing to offer there, right?
Yep.
So it's just kind of taking baby steps and get this person and slowly grow the audience. And I am reaching out to influential people now. It's just influential people that are at the stage that I can actually serve and I can actually help through my audience, right?
Right.
And they can help
time.
me. It takes time.
But it's, I've had everyone from Megadeth to Stryper, a lot of 80s bands on the show, people that I went to their shows in the 80s, and it didn't, at first, it didn't work, but you get one name, and then you take that name and you say, hey, I got this name, and then the next you just keep building it,
Mm.
building your influence, right? But for IT people, being famous on the internet, it's not that hard, people. It's a lot of it's clicking. You know, you can, like, for example, okay. So for example, I'll give you guys a little social media hack, kind of a nerdy way of doing things, right? Twitter, for example. Okay, so you have guests on your show, and one way that I do with my guests, because my guests are on my show because I'm interested in them and my music's probably similar to theirs and all that stuff, right?
Right.
So when they come on my show, I'll make a post about the interview and I'll pin it to the top of my Twitter page. And then I will go and use a program like Status Brew or some other program where you can add and unfollow users quickly on Twitter. And there's some free ones. There's some ones that cost a little bit, but you just if you're an IT guy, it's not hard to find good apps to do stuff for you, right? Or write a script or a macro if you really have to.
Right.
But so you just go and you start adding all of their followers on Twitter, and after once they come to your profile and they say, "Oh, this guy just added me. Who's he?" "Oh, he just talked to Megadeth, or he just talked to Chad Bostic, the Hello Tech Pros guy." You know, so I'm probably, when I share out this, I might add some of your Tech Pro people to my Twitter following. Because I'm a computer geek too.
Right on.
So I mean, it's just that's what you do, and you just build. And all you got to do, just look at the social media as a software. You just got to figure out how to hack it without getting in trouble.
Mm.
Like, when I say hacking, I don't mean literally hacking into the program, because then you will get in trouble.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, you got to look at it like it's a problem that you're solving, and don't look at it as a people problem. It's a numbers problem. It's a system problem. You're
Mm-hmm.
solving it just like you're troubleshooting somebody's computer problem. Your problem is you're not famous on the internet. So what do you get? It's something that you can grasp. Like, there are programs out right now that discover people on different social media networks, that you can become an influencer by just clicking a lot. I mean, it's not hard to find them. Look for emerging social media networks too, like changes in Twitter, changes in Facebook, changes in Snapchat, improvements in any of these things. Those are opportunities for you to get your foot in the door and say, you know what? I'm an author. Well, you haven't written a book yet. Well, yeah, I'm writing one. I'm an author.
Mm.
You don't need to have a book to be an author. You need to be writing a book to be an author, right? So you just say what you want to be and just put yourself out there. Fake it until you make it. It works,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. One of the things I did when I first was starting this podcast, I had not done anything. I didn't own a microphone. I hadn't recorded an episode. I didn't know what is exactly the format of the show was going to be. But I changed my job title on LinkedIn from engineering manager at XYZ to podcast host at Hello Tech Pros, and
How
suddenly I
dare you?
got 100 people that said congratulations on the new job. And I said, thanks, man.
Yeah.
You want to be on the podcast? And like 20 of them said, yeah, sure. What's it
See,
about?
brilliant hack.
And we worked it
Brilliant
out.
hack.
Awesome. Matt, I could jazz on this stuff all day long. This is such great stuff. We're going to have you back on the show again, man, to
Sure.
really, I don't know, dive deep into this stuff, because there's just so much content here. There's so much information. But you've given us so much. If you could wrap it up for us, give us some final words of wisdom, the
Sure.
best way that we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Okay. Well, I would just say, number one, you got to figure out what you want to do. And there's all kinds of ways to do that. You ask your friends and family, you know, you know what you spend your time doing when you're not at work, right? And you can do things like, take Strength Finders 2.0, go read that book and take the tests. You can take personality tests. You can do all kinds of things, surveys, whatever. Find out what you want to do with your time. Life's short, right? Then the next thing you want to do is you want to find the people that you can connect with that are doing that. It's the internet. It's pretty darn easy to find those people, right? That like what you like, that have already done what you want to do. And then you just need a plan. What am I going to do to connect with these people? What am I going to do to help these people? What am I going to do to build friendships? It's just like dating, right? You don't walk up to a girl and say, "Hey, you want to get married tomorrow?" You gotta date. You gotta spend a little time with them, get to know them, find out what they like. You buy them flowers. Oh, you don't like flowers. Buy them some food. Buy them whatever. Do whatever you got to do. It's just like that. So you're kind of like, dating your influencers in a way, if you want to look at it that way, right? And you could just plan it out, rehearse it, talk to your friends, talk to anybody that will listen to you. Get yourself out there and talk to people. Talk to yourself in a mirror. Whatever you got to do, but get those conversations. Get a good idea of what you want to get out of the conversation, what you're going to do for that person. Do some research, and what's going to be that win-win situation for you.
Awesome, great stuff. And where can we get a hold of you online?
You can check me out at kingdomofrock.com. That's my podcast where I interview rock stars, social media personalities, entrepreneurs, all trying to figure out how to make a decent living in the music business today. It's really tough with all the digital downloads and from the Napster days and all that stuff. It's hard. So the other place you can check me out is mattgibson.us. That's kind of my social media personality consulting type website. And you can also check out my music at crimsonsymphony.com.
Awesome. Matt, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value your insight, your wisdom, your stories, your humor, your social media hacking, everything that you brought to us today. It's helped me a lot in really looking at, what influencers am I trying to connect with, right? I'm trying to connect to a lot of people, but I think in the past, it's just been kind of without purpose. And I've had some great, awesome guests on the show that I've built relationships with, and it's amazing. But it's been, in many ways, just kind of happenstance. Like, hey, do you want to be on the show? Yeah, okay, great. But really looking at like the strategy, right? Not just the tactics, but the strategy of who do I need to build a relationship with? Who can help me get to that next level? What is that next level? What does that look like? Who's already there? Who's been there, done that? And who can I connect to? So you've helped me out a ton, brother. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Hey, Chad, it's great here. And I'm going to make you an offer, too. We're going to drive a stake in the sand right now.
Okay.
If you get Bill Gates on your show by the next podcast movement, I will take you out to a fine steak dinner in Chicago and pay for it.
Nice. How about
let's see if you can make it. Let's see if you can make it happen.
Well, I'm working on it. I'm hustling it. I'll be working on it right after we hang up.
All right, brother.
All right, guys, listen to what Matt's saying here. Just think about all the opportunities that are out there in the universe. Don't put a label on yourself. Don't think that you're caged in. You're pigeonholed into this area that you're working on, whether that's a work thing or a side hustle thing or a relationship thing, right? There are lots of options out there in the world. You have to be brave enough to ask for it. And then if you get told no, you have to be brave enough to ask for it a second time and a third time and go left and right and just try lots of things until you get it. But you might be able to get it. So just don't give up. Don't give up. You've been listening to Chad Bostic. No, you've been listening to Matt Gibson, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/110. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been People Friday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I discuss entrepreneurship. On Sunday, being unplugged. Monday, motivation. Tuesday, productivity. Wednesday, leadership. Thursday, technology, and then back again on Friday to talk people and communication. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.